Donald Trump, well, he's telling you exactly what he's going to do if you give him power again. Put up his picture full mass. Understand that democracy leads by a round of applause from some group every time. That group in America is called MAGA. The New York Times reported Saturday that if Donald Trump wins back the presidency, he plans to quickly detain millions of undocumented immigrants in vast camps in Texas. He will try to end birthright citizenship, renew a version of his Muslim ban, and deny visas to foreigners whose politics and their ideology are adverse to his. Let's start with Mother Jones. The draconian measures are part of a blitz described by far-right Trump immigration advisor Stephen Miller as an effort to execute an array of problematic and, in some cases, clearly illegal steps to restrict legal immigration and deport millions before immigration rights lawyers and federal courts can catch up. Trump's anti-immigration plan is the latest detailed authoritarian blueprint to emerge from within the indicted former president's brain trust. Trump, if elected, also reportedly plans to immediately invoke the Insurrection Act to allow him to deploy the military against civil demonstrations. Isn't that ironic? End civil service protections so he can fire large swaths of federal workers, something he tried to do before, and use the Justice Department to prosecute critics and political enemies. It may not be news that Trump wants to do such things, but the specificity and resolve with which his advisors are preparing to implement his wishes is a major departure from Trump's past attempts. Throughout his first term in office, Trump's malicious intentions were often thwarted by his administration's inexperience, incompetence, and advisors who tried to instill some presidential norms and prevent their boss from violating the law. Trump and his remaining loyalists, the Times notes, believe they will face no such restraints in a second term. Where are we? We are at a crossroad. We are on the edge. We are on a slippery slope, a thin line, whatever you choose to call it. Donald Trump is laying out the blueprint. He's telling you exactly what he will do. Likely he would do this on day one if you give him power again. The man right now has no political power. He has no governmental power, but he still has political power and governmental power de facto. He's been granted courtesy inside of courtrooms that no defendant has ever received. Literally, a judge told him just the other day that Trump can talk negative about him all he wants to. A judge has never said that. You have a criminal justice system not willing to do what is necessary to prosecute a criminal. Now, when I say that, I know we'll look at some of the indictments and we'll say, well, he has indictments. Yes, he has indictments. But he also has violated gag orders multiple times. His bond should have been revoked. He should be sitting inside of a place called Fulton County Jail right now. But he's not. What does he want to do? In birthright citizenship, we're going to go down the list here. The 14th Amendment of the Constitution says anyone born on US soil is guaranteed citizenship. Trump hopes to sidestep the law by ordering federal agencies to stop issuing documents like Social Security cards and passports to any babies born to non-citizens. Though such a policy is unconstitutional on its face, Trump's entourage hopes to have it in place prior to an eventual Supreme Court ruling. Isn't that something? Let's talk about why birthright citizenship is codified inside of the US Constitution. Without it, the powers that be said that Black people born in America were not citizens and could never be citizens because of the country, according to them, Black people came from, meaning their lineage could not transform. Thus, they would have no stake to become citizens in the United States of America, regardless of where they were born. 14th Amendment said, wait a minute, that's not correct. US Supreme Court interpreted that birthright citizenship is a thing, and we have thus codified it into law. And now Donald Trump says that very thing that allowed Black people to be considered citizens in the United States of America will be challenged, overturned, or ignored. There's more. He wants to end DACA. Trump would renew his efforts to end a popular Obama-era program that shields from deportation any undocumented people brought to the US as children. In 2020, the Supreme Court blocked Trump's first effort to ditch the program. But today's ultra-conservative court might rule differently. He wants to ban Muslims again. Trump hopes to reinstate his ban on travel to the US from multiple Muslim majority countries. President Joe Biden ended that policy on his first day in office. Though Trump does not appear to plan to try to implement the sweeping Muslim ban he called for while campaigning in 2016, he has said that is the goal of his policy. There's more. He wants to boot refugees. Remember, a refugee is a legal status in the United States. Trump intends to suspend America's refugee program. He plans to include possible deportation. Tens of thousands of Afghans who settled in the United States in 2021 after the Taliban took over because Trump held a secret meeting with them and provided the catalyst necessary. Many of them are former allies or supporters of the US military who were allowed to enter the United States because of the likelihood they would be killed by the Taliban in reprisal. Under Trump's plan, they would be sent back and for surely put to death. There's more. Loyalty test for Israel. This is called your proxy test. Trump has said he would cancel the visas of foreign students who took part in protest against Israel. He also wants to expand ideological screening of visa applicants to block people his backers consider, quote, to have undesirable attitudes, end quote. Roundups to achieve mass deportation of undocumented immigrants, including otherwise law-abiding people who have lived in the US for decades. Trump would order immigration and customs to carry out sweeping raids. Instead of merely arresting specific individuals, the agency would detain a large number of people in public places. Personnel from other federal law enforcement agencies, along with the National Guard troops and police from willing local jurisdictions, would be deputized by the federal government to help, according to Miller. Then comes the camps. Miller said the new Trump administration would build vast holding facilities, likely on open land in Texas near the border, for undocumented immigrants who would be detained there until they are deported. Send in troops. Trump also hopes to use the military to round up undocumented migrants. This is clearly illegal. There's an act that bars the deployment of the US armed forces for domestic law enforcement, but he's going to ignore that. Trump aims to get around that by invoking the Insurrection Act again, with the claim that illegal border crossings constitute anti-government rebellion. You see what he's doing here, right? He's the only person that animated an anti-government rebellion. We said you have to use the Insurrection Act against Donald Trump, his cronies, those that support it immediately. Utilize it by way of the system that it is applied. But no, they play games, and they still are. Declare a health emergency. Miller told the Times that Trump's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention would invoke a public health law that allows the administration to expel visa-less asylum seekers who arrive at the border without first considering their claims. The administration applied a similar strategy during COVID by means of an emergency rule known as Title 42. But without a pandemic, Miller said, the Trump team would simply claim that severe strains of the flu, scabies, tuberculosis, and other illnesses like RSV and so on, or just a general issue of mass migration being a public health threat that will constitute the emergency. And let's not forget about the children, kids in cages. Trump's draconian plans do not explicitly include a renewal of the family separation policy spearheaded by Miller and others, where more than 5,000 children from infants to teens, including US born, were forcibly taken from their parents and even held in cages. To this day, many still haven't been reunited, despite a court ruling barring the policy. Notes to Times. Trump has left open the possibility of resuming it anyway. That's the America you want. Vote for Donald Trump. He will give it to you. And it's not just him. You see, he hasn't figured these things out, but there are very racist people in this world who have very, very evil ideas, and they understand the government enough. They understand rule of law enough to actually implement these ideas. Donald Trump is surrounding himself with actual white supremacists who want to bring this country not back to where it was, but even worse than that. What happened to freedom of speech? What happened to diversity, the melting pot known as America? What happened to understanding that the differences of this country is what makes us strong? What happened to hearing someone out who may not have the same background as you? This is going to guarantee that America is hated in ways that it has never been. This is going to guarantee that individuals inside of this country who are law-abiding will be arrested, deported, and likely executed. This is going to guarantee that their family will hate us until they die, and their family's family will hate us until they die. We will become a different nation, making us a different people. All right, Sharon, thoughts?
Well, it's explosive. And I hear pundits throughout the last several days referencing Hitler, Mussolini, saying Trump is taking statements and really plays out of their playbook. And they're probably right. But Representative Clyburn, Dr. Richey said that 3 years ago. We see the writing on the wall, and I think people don't want a history lesson. And it may not even matter except for this, Doc. We are on the verge of an authoritarian regime, okay? He will sit atop it. And so people should probably just take the USA Today version and say, you know what? Think of your worst nightmare. You don't know what mine is. I don't know what yours is. But if either one of us became the leader of the free world, only we're authoritarian, it's whatever I wake up and say it is that day.
That's right.
They need to be afraid.
Very much so. And for those who are down with this plan, vote for Trump. He will deliver. If you're not, vote for anything but him.